All right. Hello and welcome. My name is Jen Roscoe. I am a counselor with the Montana Public Health Training Center under the Wellness Program. And today's class is focused in on burnout. And it's so relevant, especially for folks that are working with populations or doing any sort of caregiving. And this is just rampant right now in our culture. So I'm excited to get going on this. If you're new to this class, this is part of our Pathways series, and we're focused on stress reduction right now. And so the next class will be in a couple weeks, and that will be taught by Lydia Check, which she is our director of wellness. So that will be pretty cool. All right, Desiree, anything else on your end?
Nope, that's everything.
Okay, thank you again. I won't be able to read the chat once I get going. So Desiree is going to help me let me know what's going on. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat and she'll let me know. Okay. So again, today we're going to focus in on burnout. We know that burnout can happen to anyone, especially folks that are routinely exposed to high levels of stress. And even if you don't work in work-related stress or not, people can experience burnout and they just feel like they have nothing left to give, tired, the dread, getting out of bed is hard. And so we're going to go into that today and learn more about what it is, what the symptoms are, what are the factors that can lead to it. And then, as a therapist, I always want to connect the mind body with stress for you to notice what comes up within our systems and how you can implement different ways of softening that. Our nervous systems, they're connected to our thoughts and our emotions, and it's all just this big, huge connection that swirls around. I'm going to go into control versus no control, and then just tons of tools that can help you soften burnout. And we'll end with some mindfulness. And today's mindfulness will be at the end, so you can just have a little rejuvenation before you go back to work, and also a brain break. So love that piece. Let's move in to learning what stress is and what burnout is, because they're different. Stress really comes at us from all angles. We have our home life, we have our work, we have finances, and our physical health. And so really stress is just this interesting thing where burnout and stress, there's this line that can be really blurred. And it's often difficult to see like where one ends and the other one begins. But burnout, it's really this accumulation of unchecked stress. So a buildup of stress that comes over time. And, I like to think as burnout is like this larger, older, meaner brother of stress. It just can really come in and knock you over. And so we know now that stress and fatigue are connected, and we're going to go more into how that affects the body. But let's move into just learning about from an expert who does research on burnout to see the connection of how it affects our brain. So yeah, just let me know, Desiree, if this isn't coming through well on your side.
No, you're good.
No.
That looks good.
Yay, sounds good. Just
These days, we talk a lot about burnout. But as a psychologist, I recognize that we have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to burnout. We think burnout is any time you're feeling a little bit overworked or a little bit stressed or a little bit tired. But it turns out that burnout is a very special kind of clinical syndrome that has a couple very particular symptoms. One of the symptoms we often think about is a sense of emotional exhaustion. But this is richer than just a sense of physical exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion isn't just about being tired. It's really about feeling like you cannot emotionally handle another thing on your plate. If one thing comes on, that's it. The whole house of cards is going to fall. Even when you get a really great night rest or a week off, you're still feeling kind of emotionally tired and overloaded. That's the first symptom, this sense of emotional exhaustion. The second symptom, which I think is even more profound, is a sense of what's often called depersonalization or cynicism. You're just kind of on a short fuse with the people around you, whether that's the people you're serving in your job, your clients or your patients, or your other teammates. It's like everything they say kind of irks you a little bit, and it feels like if there's one more request, you're just going to lose it and freak out. You're also very cynical about people's intentions. You kind of feel like they have bad intentions for the asks that are coming your way. That's a sense of depersonalization. But the third symptom is a sense of personal ineffectiveness. You just feel like even if you were doing your job perfectly, it wouldn't matter, or there are structural constraints that make it impossible to do what you really value doing. So even if you're doing your job well, you feel like it kind of doesn't matter. It's not giving you the same value it was before. So this is burnout. It's not just a sense of stress or overwork. I think it's important to distinguish between stress and burnout. We sometimes lump the two together, but burnout is a very particular kind of clinical syndrome. We tend to think of burnout as a modern phenomenon, but there's evidence that something like burnout has been happening for a while, at least since the Industrial Revolution. But some of the best research on burnout happened in the 1980s and 1990s and was mostly done by this fantastic researcher, Christina Maslach, who's talked about some of the features that tend to lead to burnout. One of the features that tends to lead to burnout is an increased workload, or a workload that really feels just too overwhelming. That isn't enough to lead to burnout over time, but this can be an exacerbating feature. Another feature that tends to lead to burnout is what Maslach calls a values mismatch. You get into your job thinking you're doing something, but in practice, in the trenches, the job feels like something else. I'm speaking about burnout right now as a scientist, but also as somebody who's experienced the syndrome a little bit myself. I feel like I became a college professor and a head of college on campus because I wanted students to have a fantastic experience. But then when COVID hit, it just felt like what we were doing wasn't what I signed up for anymore. There was this mismatch. Another feature that can lead to burnout in an organization is a sense of unfairness. This can also cause a certain sense of community breakdown. When there's a sense that things are a little bit unfair, maybe there's differences in compensation, that can lead to a sense of burnout. The final thing that's really important for burnout is your sense of reward. What leads us to kind of get flow and feel happy in our jobs is a sense of intrinsic reward. When things become pushed more towards the extrinsic reward, and also when those extrinsic rewards, especially when they start feeling a little bit unfair, that can lead to a sense of burnout over time. If you're wondering if you're going through burnout, a few questions you can ask yourself involve those big symptoms we just talked about. First, this sense of emotional exhaustion. Are you really, really exhausted? Not just physically exhausted, but emotionally exhausted. When you take a weekend off, are you still as depleted when you go back on Monday morning? And does it really feel like a form of exhaustion that's very emotional? It's not just that you're tired, but that you're feeling really depressed, that emotionally you're on just a really short fuse. Are you experiencing changes in how you relate to people at your work? Either the people that you serve, your clients, your patients, or the people that you work with? Are you embarrassed about the length of your fuse? Do you feel like you're going through some compassion fatigue? That's a clear sense that you're experiencing depersonalization. And is your sense of meaning going away in terms of what you're doing? Do you feel like your work has changed, that you simply can't do a good job right now because of some of the structures of what you're asked to do or the fairness in your own institution? If you're answering yes to some of those questions, you may be on the verge of burnout, and it's important to address that before it gets worse. So what if you're already feeling a little bit emotionally exhausted, a little bit cynical, a little bit like your job isn't effective as much anymore? This is the point when you need to think about treating burnout. And we can think about treatment as having an organizational side and a personal side. Organizationally, I think different industries need to pay a lot of attention to burnout. And one of the main ways to fix burnout is to make some changes to people's workloads, to people's sense of values, and to the rewards that people are getting. Those changes are really essential steps to treating burnout once it's there. But as an individual, the best thing that you can do, aside from kind of trying to promote more of these structural changes at work, is to really take good care of yourself. And I mean that in particular, not just in terms of the kinds of things you do which matter, getting more social connection, making sure you have some free time, but also to think about how you're structuring your relationship with work. Often we bring the best of ourselves to work and leave the leftovers for everything else, for our families, for leisure, and so on. If you're really putting too much of your identity emphasis on work, that's the kind of thing that can lead to burnout, because those values feel like they matter so much to you. It's all of your identity that's wrapped up in this. When there's a mismatch, it can hit you even harder. So to address my own burnout, I decided to take a sabbatical, but it was important that I stayed very intentional about paying attention to my value systems during that sabbatical. I really tried to invest more in my relationships outside of work, so it wasn't just friendships at work that were making up my whole social life. I tried to re-engage more with other things that I value, hobbies, things as silly as like playing a little bit more Guitar Hero, but also engaging a little bit more with things like my health, like making sure I'm moving my body. It's really trying to engage all the values and the things you care about outside of work so you can start to develop an identity in that and not just in what you're doing for your job.
Okay. Yeah, apologies if the internet got a little slow there on your end. Yeah, so I really love her, Lori. She is a leader in research for burnout. And this kind of led to her learning more about happiness and different coping strategies. And so, in the resources that you can find on this class, I have links to other strategies to help burnout. And she's definitely someone to check out. She started the Happiness Project that you can Google and learn more about that research study out of Yale that she's doing. Super cool. Okay, but let's just kind of look at what she went over. She talked about these three different areas to notice, institutional factors. So yeah, where you work, and a lot of us, we're working in this giant system and it's not perfect. There's a lot of, red tape and just, issues and slowness and, this like very, it's not, doesn't run like a organized machine very often. And so this is one part of burnout to notice is, what's happening with your place of work. And, this can also be just the folks that are in charge or above you, they don't quite understand what your workload is and everything you're doing. The individual factors, this is really about you and noticing, how do you take care of yourself? How do you find time for yourself? What are your boundaries? Can you say no? And this kind of moves into, for some folks, a high burnout comes from perfectionism, wanting to just do everything perfectly and then carry this huge load. So, not delegating as much, taking it all on yourself, having those really high expectations, which can lead to burnout as well. And so, just noticing, do you take time off? Do you find ways to soften some time for yourself within your day? How do you take breaks? So this individual factors is more on your own responsibility and finding ways to take care of yourself. Interpersonal factors are, this is more broad. This is these are your people. These are your tribe. Like who can you depend on? This is the broader sense of if something happens with either your partner or your boss or a coworker, what are the skills you have to soften that situation when there's conflict? How can you repair and renew those relationships? Who can you lean on? And who, like, we are social creatures. We need people. And so if you're finding that you've become more rigid in your boundaries to not need other people or just do it all yourself and not rely and kind of lean in on your social networks, then this can also lead to burnout as well. And so, yeah, that's just something interesting to notice. And this is cool research also as well. COVID thankfully sort of opened up this door of like folks that are really burning out. And it was, the research was in, you know, in the 70s and 80s, but now there's so much more in trying to understand why there was such a mass exodus, especially from public health, because folks are just carrying such a big load and still are as well. Yeah, there's a lot there. So I'd like to kind of go into symptoms now, for folks to notice, like, how do you know if this is coming your way? The symptoms are there's a lot, and I just want to note that this is there's a continuum here. There is a spectrum of symptoms. It's not just one thing, and everyone is different in noticing. But one thing that's common is this just exhaustion, just this feeling of being so tired, of being physically and emotionally just depleted. And physical symptoms can kind of come in there with exhaustion, and that includes, you know, headaches, getting a stomach ache, appetite, or even your sleep. So sleep changes are another indication, and this can all lead to exhaustion. So just noticing, you know, physically and also emotionally, how are you feeling in that realm? Um, Another thing that they noticed in the research is a symptom is isolating. So isolation, if people are so burned out, they start to feel overwhelmed, and then they also start to isolate and move away from others. They stop socializing. And this is even like with friends and family, not just with work. But yeah, if people are truly burned out, then they start to isolate from most people. And sometimes people can move into escape fantasies. And so just, you know, feeling totally dissatisfied with, you know, what's happening, you know, the never ending job that just feels so much. And folks will start fantasizing about running away, or even, you know, in extreme cases, uh, just leaving. And this sometimes people, this is when people start moving more towards drugs and alcohol or food, just as a way to kind of numb the pain of that. And so escape fantasies can be common. Um, Irritability. So yeah, burnout, people can just lose their cool with their friends. There's a shorter fuse. There's just this easier connection into moving into a default behavior of moving into an emotion that is sharp. So that irritability piece is, you know, it's normal. It's normal that we have stressors within our life and that we can feel angry. This is a little bit more of a sharp emotional reaction. And so this may be more irritability, that much higher. So just noticing how you're feeling and noticing your emotions. This is something, if you've been to any of my classes, you know that I love teaching on emotions and noticing where you're at throughout your day. This is where a lot of your own management of yourself can come in, and taking care of your emotional well-being, and just checking in, you know, at lunch or halfway through the day, noticing how you're feeling. And so this other one, frequent illnesses, you know, burnout, just like any other like long-term stress, it can lower your immune system. This is all connected. The way we feel in our body is connected to our systems, and our immune system will take a hit. So it makes you more susceptible to colds and getting the flu, and then, you know, insomnia. And burnout, you know, this has connected to your mental health. And so this can open the door to more anxiety within yourself. And then the correlation between depression and burnout is high. And it's actually often blurred in what the symptoms are of depression and burnout. They're very similar if you're looking at what they are. And so burnout is real. I mean, it really can affect what's going on for you. And there's these 3 different areas I have here. You can see this first one of just the signs of ineffectiveness, of just not feeling like you're accomplishing anything. And that really leads to a loss of enjoyment. You know, if you lose your feeling of enjoyment with work, that's going to affect how you feel on, trying to avoid projects, and trying to just figure out how to escape from things. This other thing of signs of cynicism or detachment, this leads to just pessimism. And so at first, it might just feel like, oh yeah, we all have negative self-talk. It pops in our mind. It's very common. It's normal. But this is really moving more away from, feeling like the glass is half full to really feeling like the glass is half empty attitude. And this moves us into our mindset. What is your mindset? And if you notice that you're moving more into this like negative thought patterns and a mindset that is mostly colored by a lens that doesn't feel good in your system, this is a real sign of burnout as well. And then, it leads to isolation. And so when we move into isolation, and we start resisting socializing, not wanting to go to lunch anymore, or closing your door, keeping others out, this can move more into feeling worse and worse. And so just noticing if you're avoiding all interactions with folks, this is a sign of burnout. And so, yeah, that piece of physical and emotional exhaustion, this can lead to just detachment. And when we feel detached from others and from our environment, this can lead to us just not feeling good in our body and our thoughts. All right, so I want to move into some tools, and I want to move into just it's important to notice that burnout can lead to like some really cool change. It can move into like really some ways of finding new ways to be in the world. So oftentimes we have something tough that can happen in our lives, and this can be the door that opens to really meaningful change in your life. So recovering from burnout, it takes time, it takes some patience, it takes a lot of self-compassion and noticing, that it's been really tough and that's been really hard for me. And there's hope there that you can make a meaningful change. So this is really about recovery and noticing how you want to prioritize your well-being, figuring out what are the boundaries you want to start making. How do you want to rediscover your joy? And how do you want to move into activating just stuff that it may have been lost for a time, but you can come back to it. So I just want to say, millions of people go through this, and so many folks recover from this and re-spark. Start that sparkle can come back to you. So how can you reclaim your spark with burnout? So let's move into this one. Taking a break. So many of us, we don't. We just, keep trying to crush life, do all the things on our plate, and we don't take breaks. We feel like we're just unable to stop. And I mean, I've definitely been in that place of being in line to get a coffee, and I just feel compelled that I have to check that email or whatever and keep working when I'm taking a break. Not really taking a break. When you take a break, like really, turn off your phone, finding a way to not check those emails, or look or keep checking in about work, or whatever. So taking that spare time for yourself to read a book, listen to music, just sit and be with that cup of coffee. And whenever you move into being present, you usually are moving into your 5 senses. And our 5 senses are so powerful. They help us move into the here and now. They help us move into the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, you're not thinking about the past or the future. You're really enjoying your food. You're really like noticing the flavors, or you're touching something soft like a blanket. Or if you have something in your office that's soothing, maybe it's a special rock that reminds you of a special time or place. Whenever you move into your five senses, you're moving into a break from what's going on in your life, and you can kind of refill your well. And so when we refill our well, then it's so much easier when life hits you. You've already sort of done some other things throughout your day where you don't get knocked over. And so finding time throughout your day, even if it's like 1 minute, and that's when you're going to stop and breathe, or you're going to get that treat out of your desk and just really enjoy that chocolate. This can really help you throughout your day. So all these tools are just little things that you can kind of plug in for yourself. And this, taking these breaks, it means time management. It means finding time in your calendar to bracket time for you. And it doesn't have to be long. You can find like, what are the areas in this wheel that you can see that you might be lacking, and how can you kind of bone it up a little more, add a little bit more to that place of where you may not be giving time for yourself. Maybe there's some learning you'd like to do, and you want to bracket in a little bit of time to get that book about that thing and learn more about whatever it is. Most of us, we just have these like overflowing agendas of tasks and everything you have to get done. And so, yeah, bracketing in time for yourself, it's just for you. It's so important because it protects your time for yourself, and it helps you to just feel a little bit better. Yeah, so finding time in your calendar and bracketing in that time for yourself to take the bath or go for the walk or meet with a friend. This is so important to put yourself first, because when we do that, then we just have more in our bucket that we can give to others. If we're constantly giving, then of course you're not going to have anything left for others. And so, and it's interesting because folks that give and give and give, they're often in these giving professionals. They often have a value of caregiving, of hard work, of showing up and doing, the heavy load. And so that's natural, and it's an awesome value to have within yourself. And it's often that these folks don't spend time giving to themselves. And so I'm here to say, please give yourself some time and find that time for yourself, that's on your calendar. So get out your agenda and bracket in something that you know will feel good for you. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is getting out ahead of burnout. And so I'm talking about calendars and bracketing and making time for yourself. And this is where boundaries come in. And this is where noticing what you can control and what you can't control. It's really important. And so this is a short video, and all these videos are available on the resources as well. So if the video isn't going to come through, then I'll just skip it and you can come back to it and click on the link. But all these video resources are on our website, and you can find them and plug back in. Okay, so let's see how this relates to burnout. Hello and welcome. My name is Jen Roscoe. I'm a counselor with the Montana Public Health Training Center under the Wellness Program. And today's tip and tool focuses on what you can control and what's out of your control. And so noticing what you can control versus what you can't control. This is just a tool that counselors, we use this with our clients all the time to help them move into acceptance, to help just release more anxiety and fear. And so you can take this moment to maybe get out a sheet of paper and draw a circle. In the inside of the circle, you can write down all the things that you can control. What do you notice? On the outside of the circle, you can write down the things that are outside of your control. So typically, things that are outside of your control are the weather, politics, traffic, your kid, your partner. I mean, really, it's just about everything externally is outside of your control. And so, what we can control is actually our own responses, what our boundaries are, our thoughts and our actions, goals that you can set, and what you give your energy to. And this is so helpful to understand because when we move into understanding that the way we treat ourselves, the way we speak to ourselves, and how we handle challenges, this will help us move into feeling more peace and relaxation, calmness. You're going to focus inward on what you can control. And this moves us into self-responsibility. This is where all your power lies, is how you feel. And you have the choice. Every day before you wake up in the morning, you can lay in bed and decide, how do I want to move through this day? What are the thoughts I want to feel? And just take a moment to find those feelings, feeling into how you'd like to be in that moment. Let's say it's calm and confidence. So take a moment to just close your eyes and notice where calm is in your system. And notice where confidence is in your system. And we're all different. So notice where you hold emotions and how you can thread them to your own behavior. And if you practice this in the morning, noticing what you can control, which is yourself, you can activate how you want to feel and how you want to move through your day and take control over how you are. And this moves us out of default behavior. This moves us into responsibility. If you can figure out ways to move through the world and not get knocked over by everything external that's outside of yourself, then you're going to feel a lot better. Okay, thanks for tuning in today. There's more tools and tips on our website, on the Montana Public Health Training Center website under the Wellness Program. All right. So sometimes this restarts. Oops, I did not want to do that. Yikes. I just clicked on the link. Sorry about that. All right, there we go. So yeah, let's just pause here a little bit on control versus no control. And I'm going to click back to slideshow 1 second. Here we go. All right. So yeah, when we are working in the systems, and this kind of goes back to threading in those 3 different areas of burnout that can be affected by you, the institutional factors and your own individual factors. This kind of adds those 2 up because the institutional factors can be that feeling of out of control, that lack of autonomy, that lack of like inadequate resources that are helping you with your job, and noticing, man, yeah, those things, those bigger things and items, those giant systems are usually out of our control. They're usually, so big and clunky and messy, and they take a long time. Those things are not in our control. And so if you're focusing in on those institutional factors a lot within your thinking, and if it activates a feeling of anger or anxiety, frustration, or even the lack of autonomy or freedom within your job, this often will activate how we feel throughout our day. And so this is when we can kind of move into what we can control. So what we can control is, how you want to feel. What are the goals? How can you give time for yourself? What are your boundaries? What is important for you? And when we do this, we regain a sense of control. We regain a feeling of our own autonomy because it really, the only thing that we can control is how we are. Our environment is usually just beyond us. And, we know this. We know we live in Montana. Just wait 5 minutes. The weather's going to change. We don't have control out of most things that are external. And so this is a really great tool to help with burnout, is noticing what you can control versus what you can. All right. And so with that feeling of control, this is when you get to move into boundaries. This is when you get to choose. And listening to our bodies, it's really cool that we have this emotional system within us that informs us about how we feel. And this is connected to our body. I mean, we all know the saying about that gut feeling, listening to yourself. Our bodies, they'll give us a sign. They'll let us know when a boundary's been crossed. And, we also have the feeling of our heart racing, or that gut feeling. This is what's so cool about our own. We have everything within us to understand when we need to set a boundary. And this cool benefit of like working on your boundaries, noticing what it is, this can really lead to self-discovery, because it moves us into our own empowerment. It moves us into giving us permission to put ourselves first. So really, to avoid burnout, you can kind of start building this little courage muscle, of establishing boundaries. And a lot of people, they'll associate wanting to create boundaries with abandonment, that they'll become alone. And so this is a false feeling, because boundaries actually are just creating limits around you to help yourself feel safe. If we didn't have boundaries, then we wouldn't feel safe at all. And it's not about changing other people. This is about focusing in on yourself and changing you. And so it's not about telling other people to change. If you focus in on boundaries to focus on yourself, then that's when that real change can happen. And so a lot of people think that boundaries are about manhandling someone to do what you want them to do. But really, boundaries are about you just figuring out what you want, and getting really clear about creating the life that you want to figure out, and how to, bracket in that self-care for what works for you. And so working on your boundaries, that's a really great tool for burnout. And so, yeah, let's just notice, like, how do we regulate? This is such a great skill, and I love that it's being taught in schools now, and kids get activated. There's more emotional intelligence now. All these new generations are coming in, to learn how to regulate themselves if they feel stressed or activated or upset or sad. And so we know that the research is showing that when you move into the here and now, that's when you can access being stress-free. That's when you can access the present moment. And there's so many ways to do it. And you may notice, like, these are just a few. And you can throw in the chat, how do you access the here and now? What do you do where your brain just like settles in and you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future. It's just you and the trail if you're a runner, or if it's just you in the garden and the dirt in your hands and you're feeling it. Whenever we move into the here and now, this is like this special place where we also get ideas. And so all the research on creativity and like problem solving, it's associated with this bilateral brain movement, where when moving into these places where you could just be in the shower and washing your hair, but you're using both hands at the same time, or on your head, that's bilateral, or walking is bilateral, or riding a bike is bilateral. It's accessing both sides of your body. And so when we do that, this helps regulate it helps your brain, first of all, talk to each other. Both sides are talking to each other. And we move into getting ideas, and we move into having that aha moment. Have you ever been just doing something and then all of a sudden you remember that name you couldn't remember when you saw that person? That's your brain settling in to the here and now, and ideas and solutions can come. So it's a really great skill and tool is bracketing in this time for yourself. And that also includes things that are not just movement, but mindfulness and being still will really help you get into the here and now as well. Okay, so self-compassion. This is another tool, and this isn't one that we're taught as much. Noticing if you're having a tough time, like if you're feeling burned out, and if you fall into that feeling of just self-criticism, and all that negative self-talk, then we're usually not being very nice to ourselves. Kind of cultivating that feeling of self-compassion. If you can think more thoughts more often of that you're doing really well, that this is hard and you're figuring it out. Like talking to yourself in a way that can help you kind of soften whatever's happening for you and not blaming yourself. Because when we beat ourselves up, we just exacerbate that feeling of stress. And this will hinder recovery. And when we move into self-compassion, we're treating ourselves with the kindness that you would probably treat someone else, like a close friend. How would you be with someone that was really suffering? You would show up for them and be soft with them. So doing that for ourselves, it's really important. Forgiving yourself if you make a mistake, reminding yourself that you're doing the best that you can. And I love employing like mantras with this. I have a couple that I use for myself for different things. Like if I'm doing something physical, I have this mantra where I say to myself, you've done hard things. You've done hard things. And then I remember the hard things I've done. I'm like, yeah, I climbed that mountain, or I signed up for that race, or whatever it was that's physical. But I also have other mantras that I use for things that are more internal, and that just help me soften whatever's happening for me. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. It's okay. I can learn from this. And so the way that we talk to ourselves, that self-compassion, if you link that with breathing, the research is really cool because we usually breathe a little slower. And when we breathe deeply, we are regulating our nervous system. Our vagus nerve is this cool nerve that we can, if you hum, that sends information up and down your spine to relax. And little kids will self-regulate all the time. They'll be walking around humming, and they're just regulating, which is so cool. All right, so remember to breathe. Remember to add in some self-compassion. And I think now it's time for us to breathe and move into activating that feeling of happiness. And so today's mindfulness and rejuvenation piece is to, this is kind of the thing you can do on the opposite end of burnout. It's focusing in on what makes you happy. And so I filmed this on at Flathead Lake. So for those folks that live up in that area, what a beautiful place to be in Montana. All right, so go ahead and get yourself comfortable. You can just zone in right now into a different place within your body and allow yourself to have a little bit of rejuvenation. So let's get going. All right, go ahead and get yourself comfortable, however that may feel. You may close your eyes or hold a soft gaze. And just allow yourself to rest into the space that you are. Regulating your breathing. And just allowing your head to sink down into your shoulders. Allowing your shoulders to release and letting your arms hang heavy. Allowing your chest area to just rest. allowing your belly to just let go, letting go of any little muscles you may be holding, and allowing your sit bones to just root into the chair, or if you're laying down, allowing your back and your legs to root into the place that you are, feeling grounded, feeling secure, feeling relaxed. And as you rest into yourself, feeling more relaxed, feeling calm, feeling content, I want you to focus inward on your heart area and allow a little light to be activated within yourself. And as you activate your imagination now to focus inward, notice where this light is in your chest. And just allow it to grow and fill up your chest, allowing this feeling of positivity and love and gentleness, all that you imagine that is goodness. Allow it to move up into your head, allow it to move down into your toes, allow it to move down into your fingers. Becoming aware of any feelings that kind of tingle within you, and just continue to confirm and affirm that you deserve to feel good, and repeating to yourself, yes, I believe I deserve to feel good in my life. Yes, I trust that life is good, and yes, I am willing to open up to all the doors of goodness, including joy and love. Yes, I welcome the possibilities for happiness. Yes, I tune my heart inwards and imagine that there are 2 giant doors that are opening for me now. Feeling yourself open and ready to receive the positivity and the happiness that you deserve. Notice that one of these doors is for love and happiness to enter in. Only love and possibility extend from within. Allow yourself to just bathe in this feeling of tuning into this delightful energy, this softness, this rest, this peace, and know that you are worthy of it, you deserve it, and this bright light is really a million suns all together within your heart right now, and it is blowing past every door in your heart and allowing you to be ushered in to feeling happiness and love and that energy that's growing within you and extending from this space to all around you. It's filling you up and your heart is feeling full. The light is brighter, brighter than it's ever been seen. And you hold this light within you. Allow yourself to feel this energy entering into every cell of your being. Feeling yourself receive this refreshing, rejuvenating love of possibility and happiness and joy. Feeling your ability to believe in many creative possibilities. Everything is working out for you and becoming enhanced and stronger, more natural. And it says, as if you are feeling so much positivity and happiness that you carry this connection with you, with this feeling with you as you move into every situation this week. It's within your fingers and your toes. It's within your eyes and your smile. It's within every part of your being. Allow this to move with you through your day, moving into all your relationships and through all your situations. And just relaxing in the knowledge that you always have access to this part of yourself, this part of you that is connected with love, gentleness, positive feelings, and happiness. And so slowly we're going to move back into the here and now and just allow maybe your toes to wiggle, maybe your fingers, maybe allow your head to drop and roll. And we're going to move back slowly in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, welcome back. Thank you for doing this happiness mindfulness with me today. I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy all good things. Thanks again for taking time for yourself, for a little self-care, a little brain break, and enjoy. All right, welcome back. And yeah, thanks for taking the time to feel into the feelings of happiness and feeling into that feeling of growing that light within yourself. And this form of rejuvenation and happiness for activating happiness, this is really based on the science that they're doing of noticing what part of the brain is being lit up. And we often don't light up this part of our brain. And light up the feelings of how we want to feel, this precognition, this activating the feeling before you're in the feeling. This is a really powerful brain hack. And these brain hacks are things you can have in your back pocket throughout your day to help soften burnout. And so that video is available on our website we have a whole playlist of mindfulness now that you can access, and they range from 5 minutes to 15. I think the sleep one is around 20 minutes. If you ever wake up in the middle of the night, you can just go there and get this free resource. All right, so let's move on to the next slide, which is, yeah, just checking in about what we've learned today and noticing what is the takeaway for you today. So we went into what burnout is and how closely related it is to depression, and how it's different from stress. Noticing what the factors are to leading to it, noticing that it's that institutional factors, your individual factors, and then also your interpersonal factors. So those 3 areas, interpersonal is about your relationships and your social interaction, but also you and what coping strategies you have for yourself. And just linking that to control versus no control, noticing what you can control and what you can't control, and how you can let go of those things that are just beyond us and focus more in onto your own internal systems. If we're always focusing in on the external, it's going to knock us over. It's going to be tougher throughout the day, because when you notice things that are outside of yourself, mostly, then you're not going to feel as good within your body, because we don't have control over those things. And so also, we moved into a lot of tools. What do you notice would be helpful? How do you access the here and now? How do you access your five senses? And even if you like bracket in that time for time management, like going outside for a quick 1 minute, 2 minute walk around the building. Next time you do that, try to be super intentional. For one, you're going to be doing bilateral, so check, that's awesome. Two, notice your senses. What can you smell when you walk out the door? Noticing with your eyes, what is up in the sky? What is around you? Noticing, stopping and noticing something you can touch. Anytime we move into touch, that is another way that we can really ground ourselves into the here and now when we touch things. And if you're feeling super activated, that can be really helpful for grounding your system. And so, yeah, just that 1 minute walk can help you reset your day and reset how you feel. And you know, I moved into boundaries, and boundaries are just this awesome skill that we can keep working on. A lot of us, you know, we weren't taught boundaries from our family of origin, and it kind of feels like this is something that may be harder to learn. And notice that you may be doing boundaries all the time, and you may not even realize you have this skill within you. You've already developed this muscle by creating limits for yourself, by noticing how you can bracket your time. Even if you have that little thing on email that says, I'm on vacation, I'm not available, that is a form of boundaries. Letting your boss know or other coworkers, I'm not available on the weekend. I won't be checking email, or when I leave my job. That is a form of boundaries that you can really help yourself with taking care and avoiding burnout. And then again, finally, breathing, being able to regulate, finding ways to soften. And even if we move into our face, anytime that you can soften your eyes or just take in that deep breath where you're relaxing your shoulders and just allowing yourself to sink into your chair a little bit more, that is activating a part of your brain that will help your nervous system move into regulating. And when we can self-regulate, we have so much more power throughout our day to choose how we want to feel, to choose how we want to be within our systems. And so I'd love if people want to throw in the chat what their takeaway is, maybe something they're good at, if there was anything surprising that you noticed, and maybe even with meditation, focusing in on happiness and focusing in on how to activate that within yourself. Because we often can find the feeling of anxiety or stress, but not so much the feeling of happiness. So activating that more. Okay, so I'm going to stop share, and thank you so much for attending. Desiree, do we have in the chat the link for people giving us feedback?
They just need to return to the portal.
Oh, heck yeah. Okay, love that. Okay, well, let's just check the chat now that I don't have the screen anymore. Thank you so much. Oh, you're welcome. Love these sessions. Thank you. Oh, Carrie, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Thank you for all the work that you're doing in public health. I so appreciate you very, very much for all the work that you do. We're here to serve you, so just know that you can access me. I'm going to stay on for just a minute if people have questions. Anything else from you, Desiree, on your end?
No, not at all. Not today.
Okay, sounds great. All right, have a great day. Thank you so much for all the work you do. Thanks for taking time for yourself.